Well, I woke up today and took a shower and started watching my YouTube subscriptions as usual. And I watched Fitchful Thinking's latest video about the subject of child abuse. And I thought the subject was wrapped up, but there's little tiny loose ends that I'd like to talk about. Not necessarily about child abuse. The loose end that I'd like to talk about today is Theological WhackaMole. The first time I heard this concept was from Noel Plum 99, but I think it applies to what Fitchful Thinking was saying in regards to my claims that by him teaching Christianity to children, he is abusing them. When I made that claim months ago, it stewed and simmered within him, and he has claimed that I made that claim with no evidence as to what he teaches. And I don't know what youth ministers teach to children. I have no evidence for that. So I called him on the phone and I asked him directly, do you teach them that Jesus died on the cross? And he said, well, yeah. You teach them he died for our sins? And he said, yeah. And I asked him if that, didn't reinforce what they might already know about sin from previous teachings, what they might, learn from kids on the schoolyard, I had previous to make wake up, jaw. Previously, before I even made that claim to Fitch, I had come to the conclusion that anyone who teaches Christianity to children is committing child abuse because of the teachings contained within Christianity at all. And so it's not really that much of an attack on Fitchful Thinking for being a youth minister. It's really more of an attack on the religion as a whole. I had someone send me a playlist of videos on religious child abuse, and all of the content in those videos was made within the last 5 years, because that's as old as YouTube is, but at least within the last 50 years, and Fitch accused me of not having any evidence to back up my allegation of child abuse, and I have plenty. I have documented evidence that religion leads to child abuse. I could give you my own personal experiences within the church, and I have done so on my own channel. But I think it's hypocrisy for Fitch to tell me that I don't have any evidence that supports that Christianity constitutes abusing children when you teach it, and he's teaching Christianity with no evidence as to the existence of God. When I look at what evidence I have as to how abusive Christianity can be, all of the evidence that I have, it is a mountain, a fucking mountain of evidence. It's all been made in a more enlightened time period, where you can actually verify the evidence. And I don't like to trust anything before I'd say around the year 1600. Everything before the Enlightenment, I kind of take with a grain of salt because, the teachings of Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Confucius, the Buddha, all of them have been doctored in ways that attributes things to them that didn't really come from them. And I believe the same is true of Christianity and Islam, because, it wasn't until the Enlightenment that we actually had independent verification as pretty much the standard by which we would pass along truths. Once a scientist develops something, it takes another scientist across the world to independently develop it before we really accept it as fact. So everything before the 1600s, I don't really consider scholarly research at all. If I was going to back up a claim that I was making, I wouldn't use anything from before around there. And any truths that did happen before the 1600s have been verified since then by a modern day scientist. So you wouldn't have to go back before the 1600s to find any truths, because it's already been verified since then, if it came out in that time. And you are free to attempt a verification of any truth, whether it has come before the 1600s or after, if you are a free-thinking human being. But if you are shackled by religion, there is a great big giant realm of information that is off limits for verification. And so, yeah. What I mean by theological whack-a-mole, it's just like at Chuck E. Cheese or any little kids' entertainment center where they have the electronic games. There's the whack-a-mole game where you bop them on the head and they go back down in the hole, and then another one will pop up somewhere else. What that means is, theological whack-a-mole is when you attack someone for their beliefs on something, they back away from that belief and say, well, I don't believe that. If I say hell is a place where kids are taught that they're going to burn for eternity, and he backs away from that version of hell, and he says, no, it's just a distance from God. Well, if I attack the distance from God thing, he'll just say something else. And finally, Fitch has come to the point where he says, I don't talk about hell, and I avoid the subject altogether. And I don't talk about sin at all. I just avoid the subject altogether. I teach about love. That's what he said in his phone conversation, that he tries to be an example of what a loving person would be. And what I have to say to that is, you can be a loving person without being a Christian. I don't see how you think that love is just a part of Christianity. And I don't think that Fitch is teaching Christianity by now. I think we have accused him of teaching enough things about, what Christianity is, and he's backed away from all these things. I'm like, he's not a youth minister, he's just a daycare worker. Anyways, if love is the only thing that you're teaching, and you say that love necessarily comes from Christianity, I'm going to tell you that is your religion stealing the carrion from the mouths of humanity and giving it to your mythical deity. People can love without your God. I know you don't like to hear that, but your God is not the source of love. Human beings are the source of love. Life is the source of love. You know, imaginary beings are not the source of love. And teaching someone that love comes from your imaginary friend Jesus instead of from within you, you know, and it's a form of disassociating them from reality. And I'm going to say even that is child abuse. Teaching them that their emotions don't come from themselves. You know, that is a psychological trauma that a kid would be, you know, very much hurt by. But go back into your psychological texts that you read from to back up your defense for that, Fitch. I think I'm done for this morning because I've made so many long videos, and it's even getting to me, you know. It's like people tell me, "Wow, 45 minutes. Wow, 25 minutes. Wow, 30 minutes. Come on." So, I hear you, and I'm actually feeling it myself. So, until I get frustrated again,